Today's guest has taken 2 Minot private schools to state title games and has worn many hats for Minot State. Joining me now, it's Jeremy Feller. He's been a coach at a few different places around the Minot area, and now he's at Minot State doing his thing, fundraising for his alma mater. First, Jeremy, I showed up here when you were over at Our Redeemers, and since I've been here, you've been to Bishop Ryan coaching as well. And as recent as this past season. So I just want to cover my arrival in 2015 up to now, and then we'll date back a little before then, and then, of course, see what's ahead for you. Looking at the teams that you were coaching just at Our Redeemers and Bishop Ryan, what was kind of like the calling card that you wanted to instill on those teams, and what were the things that ultimately personified them, I guess, when you look back at each season?
You know, it's kind of funny to look back at the process. You know, my first couple of years, you know, obviously every coach wants to win, but you know that was kind of my focal point. And you know, those that know, you know, we didn't win very many games those first few years. You know, we won 3 games my first year, but you know, the year before they only won 2, so we called that progress still. But
a 50% improvement.
Right. As the focal point changed, though, you know, it was kind of about relationships and, you know, building that with not only the kids, but the parents, and just the more family, I guess, kind of a feel things got, you know, the more games we started winning. So I always like to say that, you know, whether or not that's goes together or not, it's to be said. But for us, I guess, you know, it worked out. And, you know, just being a part of that process has been fun. You know, like I said, you know, 3-win season, you know, it's hard to find positives, but, you know, every year was a special group of kids. And from that year, just the next year, winning 5 games. And then, you know, we got to double digits finally. And, you know, midway through, you know, my 4th year, I was kind of, you know, a little discouraged because, you know, you just kind of felt like, you know, success was going to be there. And you just kind of, X's and O, or, you know, wins and losses, you know, it didn't seem to be, but, you know, the relationships that we're building along the way. But got some advice, you know, that 4th year of a gal in Berthold that was leaving the gym after a loss. And she said, you know, it takes 4 years, you know, that 5th year is when things turn around, because, you know, every kid's been through your system now and they all know what you expect. And, you know, that 5th year was kind of, you know, fun. We set the school record for wins that year and at our Redeemers, and then the next 4 straight years, going into 15 when you came aboard, and then of course 16 with that state tournament run. That was pretty fun. But so yeah, sometimes that process, being a part of that 3-win team to a 2-loss season, is, you know, being from one end to the other, it's just a little bit more special when you have to take your turn at building it, you know. So
Ryan wasn't even like a builder, though, you know. I mean, so you kind of maybe hit the ground running there a little bit better, do you think, or what?
Yeah, you know, Ryan was a lot more stressed than you may think, because, like you said, you know, I walked into you know, for the most part, a fully loaded team, lots of returners. You know, at the time, possibly, you know, an all-stater or 2. You know, at the beginning of the season, you know, obviously we don't know, but definitely a very talented group. And you know, the school was great, and don't get me wrong, the parents were great. The pressure wasn't from that by any means, but just personally, like, you know, they've had some success over the years, and walking into a loaded cabinet, or whatever you want to call it. You know, I had a lot of fun those 2 years, and, you know, even this last year for 3. But it definitely was the most stressful I've been, trying to coach night in, night out. And you know, we took a lot of stuff that Brock did, and I had the mentality that it's easier for you know, 15 guys to for me to learn what they're doing versus them to learn me in such a short amount of time. So you know, we did a lot of his stuff, mixture of some of what I did, and you know, that's hard too, because, you know, it's midway through the season, and you know, sometimes when you run plays that aren't yours, you don't know exactly when to use them, how to use them. And finally, midway through the season, you know, I had a highlighter, and if I wanted a post look, I looked for the purple play, because, you know, my mindset P in purple, and, you know, if I needed a guard touch, had it highlighted in green. So about that midway season point, I finally got comfortable and using everything and knowing what to do. And so yeah, it was kind of a different transition.
So nobody faulted you for not calling it purple and gold instead of purple and green over there at Bishop Ryan, or what?
Yeah,
Or somebody had something to say about it, or what?
It's funny. I made it. My biggest fear my first year was breaking down the huddle and accidentally saying Knights, or instead of Lions. And,
I was going to say.
I caught myself in summer baseball once in a while. Blue Sox on 3, and mentally, I about said Knights or something. And yeah, but I made it through my first year. But it's funny. My second year, that the district whatever game it was, first or second round there against our Redeemers, it accidentally came out, and I joked with them that I was just trying to motivate you all. Hey, we ended up losing that district game to our Redeemers, and so I don't know if I cursed us or jinxed us or what, but it accidentally did slip out, and you did it for 9 years. I guess it's just still habit. So
I'll let you off the hook. It's okay. And you talk about just like keeping things rolling with what Brock had and what you had to bring to Minot. Brock Teets, of course, over at our Redeemers, and I'm going to spare you the basic question of all these private school coach swaps. We talked about. We did a 10-minute thing with him when he first got hired. I'm like, Brock, this is enough of this. Waited 7 minutes into it, and I'm not even going to waste your time on that, Jeremy. So instead, I kind of want to know a little bit about the best players that you've had at our Redeemers and Bishop Ryan. If you do like an all Jeremy Feller coach lineup between the Minot private schools, who's making like the starting 5 or coming off the bench for that team?
It's funny. First of all, I joked with Coach Tice this year that, the circle's going around. Maybe it's your turn to go back to our Redeemers or something. And, being everyone else is switching boats so much. But, it's kind of ironic how that's all worked out. But I guess it's been for the good. But, I don't know. To think of, an all-area team or the top 5 players, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of that thing of, how much time do you have?
You're doing. That's safe enough. I got to think of probably the Bull Hedberg, Udekwe of Ryan. You watched Anthony Vetter on the other side, so I can't really count that for like the teams that you were on. Then you get like John Wrighton, Josh Van Lith, couple Able boys, things like that. Weeklies, probably is the rough answer. The Hendricksons, of course, too.
Yeah, each team's had its own special core and its own special group, and coaching my nephews this year was kind of special. And but if you named a few, but if you look at our Redeemers, I guess you'd have to jump to that 16 team first. We lost 2 games and state runner up, and I think more than just the best player, it was those seniors, Ben, Josh, and John, and Nathan. They knew what to do. They knew how to work together. They didn't care who got the credit. And sometimes the best player is just having 4 guys or 5 guys that know their roles. So and then we had a nice group of sophomores that year with Tatum and Noah and Jade and Layton and Grayson that just kind of filled some voids. And when you have a bench like that too, it goes a long ways. And it's kind of ironic. I've had the opportunity to coach a lot of family members, brothers at both schools, and at our Redeemers, that there's just been about 6 or 7 of them that it's fun to have that experience of both family members. But as you mentioned at Ryan, obviously it's easy to point out Ben and Mason. They were both all-state players last year, and Vetter, he was the kid that I had to coach against for 2 years, 3 years, and then finally got the opportunity to coach him his senior year. So he did a lot, and he created a lot for Ben and Mason because you couldn't forget about him. Sometimes you just have shooters, you can, and no post, it doesn't work so well. So they worked well together. And sometimes you forget about people that do little things. And, I think of like Caden Sheen, for an example, who probably didn't read about him in the paper a whole lot, but he had some big shots for us. He knew when to shoot. It wasn't, again, he did his role. He took care of the offense. Sometimes you need that point guard, kind of like Noah did for me at our Redeemers, and just you need that quarterback. And Caden again hit some big shots at the state tournament when we needed them. He didn't score necessarily a lot of points, but the ones he did were huge. And Shanaza, same way. Just having that quarterback sometimes, and even Lazat and Sawich, they brought a lot to the table. You don't read about them in the paper, but coaches, when they watch games, they see those little things that get done, those rebounds, or hey, that screen that they set to get somebody open. The average fan picks up the newspaper and sees Bull, Hedberg, and they thought they carried us. Well, yeah, they do in the point category, but there's just so many other players that have contributed to making that team great. So
Caden was a guy that seemed like he always gave whoever he was guarding like a really hard time, and he was really probably up there when it comes to like just the take charges stat that like nobody really follows, I guess. But again, there's a lot of those guys that you mentioned. I mean, especially like the Bull, Hedberg guys that like entertain college type level success. It's kind of like when I drafted my fantasy football team and I went like Mahomes, Kelsey 1-2. You just like plug them in and like you as the coach don't have to worry about things or anything like that. So I mean that has to be nice, Jeremy, right?
Oh yeah, I made that comment going into this season, or this last season we just finished. Is I told my wife and coaching staff that going into every game I'm nervous because the last 2 years I had the luxury. I knew we were going to score 45, 50 points between those two guys, and you knew somebody else was going to throw in another whatever. So we were going to have 50 points a night, and you play media. Even though we preach defense, that needs to be who we are, and at the end of the day, you knew you were going to score 50, 60, 70 points, and it's easy to win games when you do that. And last year, we had some talented kids, but just nobody had played in a role before. The two kids that did play last year had no experience, and so I was just nervous every night that I'm like, are we going to score tonight against the rugby, because they are just so much bigger than us, and we they surprised me in how they played some nights, and other nights when we thought we'd play better, we didn't. And just inconsistent with young kids and whatnot. But
that's like kind of like the dark side in the back of your mind angle, where like any coach that tells me on the news, like, well, I like all of our scorers. Anybody on any given night can lead on the stat sheet. But conversely, you're like, boy, who's it gonna be? Is basically what I'm hearing out of you right now. So, right?
Yeah.
a little bit, just a little
it's nice
bit.
to have that luxury of having a scorer like that, especially at that caliber. Sometimes we let them do more than you probably would somebody else. But how often do you get the opportunity to coach two All-State kids like that, and more importantly, have surrounding cast with them? So it was definitely some fun years.
So speaking of fun years, when I was talking to Wade Regier, he's coaching a powerhouse hockey team right now at MSU, and then when he was playing, he called it like the lean years a little bit. So when you look back to like when you were building Our Redeemers' first couple single-digit win seasons, I mean, where did the fun come from for the players, coaches, families, and whatnot?
I think it was just that time together that, whether it was a bus trip or, whether it was a team meal or as the years went on, the workload at my house for my wife, cooking, increased, and just that bond we noticed started growing. We started doing more team camps, going into the 15-16 season there when we made our first state tournament appearance. We played about twice as many games in the summer than we did during the regular season. So we kind of looked at ourselves and, we need nicer practice gear if we're going to play more in the summer. But and sometimes even more than the games is just the travel to those team camps. And I remember being in a locker room halftime talk, and actually we were playing rugby, and this was probably 2014 or 13. The years start to run together. But I remember telling the kids about it's about knowing what each other are going to do. It's about playing with each other enough to know that when I look at you and you're denied, it's going to be a back cut, or I said we're not on that page yet to where we know what each other's going to do because we haven't played with each other enough. So just that time together is huge, and again we carried it over into Blue Sox. We'd go watch the Twins, and it started with games being played down there, and then it just turned into let's just go down there and grow and see what that leads. And some of the best memories I hear from the kids. Hey, you remember that? This at that, and the Twins game, and what we did in Minnesota. So sometimes it's not even about the games that was their most memorable moment. So
Yeah, so you were doing Surrey baseball too, like concurrently, like in the summer times, like along with the spots that you had when I first show up here. So I'm kind of curious, maybe if you go in the Wayback Machine, what were some of like the best times of? I don't know. There's a throwback photo of Jeremy Feller that comes to mind, like coaching like Surrey basketball, or maybe coming up as an assistant or travel. Anything like that stick out to you?
yeah, right out of college, actually I coached the Blue Stocks. I think my senior year of college. It was 13 years, so I mean it. But my first year out, I kind of jumped in running. I did football junior high and helped with the varsity, and then I went into girls basketball the first season out there in Surrey, and then I did track as a baseball player in high school. But I did track, and I had a great senior that I learned a lot of throwing tips from. But it was kind of a year-round process. Did summer baseball up there, and kind of kept yourself busy. Enjoyed being around the kids. Enjoyed just being at practice and the sports. And this will be the first time since I was a fifth grader, which was a long time ago, that I won't have a practice to go to for myself. Technically, I'll be lugging my kids to practice now, as my daughter will be a fifth grader. But it'll be kind of the first year I don't have to participate in a practice myself yet, I guess. So it'll be kind of a weird transition. But
Who was the senior with the throwing tips?
Cammie Tallman, I believe she was a state qualifier the year before, and then I had her a couple of years. And yeah, I threw shot put my senior year just for fun because I figured I needed something else to do, and I figured it was easy, and I thought it was tough, and then I quickly learned that track has a lot of technique, and it's not just about who's stronger sometimes or faster. It's about that technique, and so I quickly got discouraged. But I was always raised that when you start something, you finish it. So I stuck it out. Obviously, baseball was my first priority if we had two sports. But so I had a few tips on the throwing, the shot put, but the discus and the javelin were. I took a lot of pointers that first year from my senior.
There you go. So as the years went by, you got kind of a little busier with some other different jobs where you kind of had to shy away a little bit from coaching at certain points. Just with respect to Surrey, obviously a long time there coaching and stuff. What was your take on being honored by the Legion team with like the field markings painted over and like the Feller number 23 logos, given that like you were like still alive and in the dugout and all that stuff?
Yeah, I did make the comment that I said, "Geez, I kind of feel like I passed away here with the being on the shirts and everything." But it was kind of special. It was a long day to process everything that went on, and you kind of have 13 years running through your head. I coached for 13 years and kind of did just about everything there for a while. Ran the program for I think 10 or 11 of those 13 years on top of being the coach, and for a good majority of that time, I picked up all the concession stuff and counted the money, and it got to a point to where I kind of didn't know if I had enough time to do all that. And that's when I had a lot of other people say, "Well, no, we don't want you to leave. We'll help with this." And before you know it, we had quite a team there down the stretch, and obviously bringing home a lot of the dishes to have washed, and obviously behind every coach is a great wife, right? So.
Oh yeah, I've been hearing that plenty from not only you but lots of people. And just to bookend that, I mean, how great of hands is the Surrey program in now when it comes to one Jason Feller?
Yeah, it was nice to transition over, I guess, to him, and I still kind of help out a little bit, maybe more than I should, and I'll lay in bed, and sometimes it'll be midnight or whatever, and I'll look over to my wife and, "Hey, what do you think about this?" She'll remind me that weren't you supposed to be retired? But it's been a part of my life for so long that I remember 93, 94, and I mean most kids that's ancient to them because they weren't obviously around. But I remember watching my brother play, and the Blue Stocks were quite a dynasty back then, and they won back-to-back state titles. And my summer vacation was going to a national baseball tournament in Idaho and Missoula and watching them. And you went to the games, and they hit a lot of home runs. And I remember you got a quarter for every ball, and I'd come away with $5 or $6, and as a young kid, that's like you're struck it rich. So when you've been around it that long, it's just it's a part of you, and it's hard to kind of walk away. So it's still think about things, and I try helping with the fundraising a little bit, and just different things of that nature. And it's when you enjoyed the experience so much as a player, you just want to pass that on for the the next crew, and so on and so forth. So,
is there anything you still think about when you look back to how close the Ryan championship games were? I mean, it doesn't have to be like a haunting thing because you guys didn't win, but I mean, you just kind of mentioned just thinking about things looking back,
Yeah, opportunities. There's any coach, I guess, probably would tell you that there's moments you look back on, and it's so much easier to be a fan and sit there and go, man, that was dumb, or this was dumb, or certain parts of certain games still bug me, and I still think about what could have happened if something else would happen, or I would have called something else, or would have stuck with my gut, or I don't know. It's just I'm sure as you've talked to many coaches, a lot of them tell you that you still lose sleep over decisions you make, and in the heat of the moment, I guess I always joke that when you make the right decision, the player gets the credit, and when you make the wrong one, you look dumb. So, but yeah, there's just situations. I just think back to the Thompson game this last year. We had, if you would have told me Ben Bull would have had 2 elbow shots to go to the state championship game, I would have bet you a lot of money that would have happened. And unfortunately, the ball didn't bounce their way. You can make excuses that he turned his ankle earlier and maybe didn't have just enough lift. But I think back to the play we drew up there, to try tying the game, and tried the Duke play there to throw the ball down the court, and it's just one of those things where looking back at enough time, I should have went to the one that was in my book and the one we practiced. But I just in the heart of the moment, you just I don't know. Sometimes you don't think things through, or you second guess yourself when it fails. So
you can definitely feel confident with guys like that. But I mean, when it comes to betting money, you can leave that between me and Roger Coleman. We always like having a good chat about that. It's all me, and he just has to listen, and that's the story, and he'll stick to it. Anyway, looking back when you made that step to being a college basketball player, why was MSU the right place for you? Good times there, of course, hopefully. And then what are your thoughts on the team that's going to be coming back this winter?
Yeah, it was obviously it was a difficult process. As a high school kid, you don't really know what you want to do, and more importantly, what you want to go into and what you want to do for the rest of your life. And those are all decisions that you're trying to hurry up and make. And obviously, as a high school senior, my priority was trying to figure out a way to play sports longer. And, as most college athletes do, the degree doesn't really matter as much right away. And then you'll find something, kind of a mentality a lot of times. But, at first I, married as they throw big numbers at you sometimes and offer you scholarships that seem exciting, because, for me, hey, they're going to give me $4,000 to go play football. Well, the cost of school there is so much more. It's kind of like, not getting one and just going to Minot State. And, Mayville had my interest for a while. They have had quite a baseball program, and baseball's kind of, has always been one of my favorite things. People probably don't realize that but baseball is so it was hard. But at the end of the day, I had quite a Minot State influence in my school. Coach Girding's husband, our women's coach, there for a while. Her husband was my football coach and counselor, and Gary Walhog, who was the assistant coach for the girls' team, was one of my teachers, and I still remember to this day Gary sitting me down in one of my classes and kind of explaining to me how much it would cost my family if I went to Mayville, between hotel rooms and travel. And
it's okay. You can be like, I meant to say that school. It's probably holding true for both of them.
Yeah, so it's just, it was funny that I still remember sitting down and just saying, hey, they're offering you, $1,000, and Minot State's only doing $500, but look at all this money that's going to cost to your family. And at the end of the day, it was about staying home, and Surrey, obviously 7 miles down the road.
Were you not like a big proportions fan in high school algebra class, or what?
No.
Admittedly, yeah. And just being close, huh?
Yeah, staying home was kind of the biggest part at that point. And, at the time, I really liked Holtz, and after playing with him for 4 years, I loved the experience, and X's and O's wise, he's probably one of the smartest guys I've been around. So enjoyed that time. Obviously, a lot of stuff I do in practice, and I did. Had a blueprints of his, whether it was the exact play or a play that I modified the ending of to flow with what we were doing. And it was always funny when he was at Surrey and Jordan Cooper was at South Prairie, and I was at whichever school. We'd play each other, and we'd kind of run some of the same stuff once in a while. We'd call it something different once in a while. And I still remember the Jordan Cooper story of when they played Surrey, and Holtz called a play, and I don't remember the name of it at the time, but Jordan said he looked down at Holtz and said, hey, and he called the same play, and they both ran the same play. So, I think a lot of times when you had coaches that you liked, you see that blueprint carried with you, and no different than high school, with Todd and different coaches like that I've had over the years, Bruce in baseball, just a lot of the stuff, that's ingrained in you and that you liked. And sometimes that's the experience of why you want to keep coaching, because of the experiences you had. You want to pass that on, and I guess that's no different for me. Athletics has always been a big part of my life, and I've been fortunate to have great coaches, and I guess it was something I kind of wanted to do. And my wife at the time said, if you want to coach, you should probably get your teaching license and teach. And because I kind of was just going to stick with the corporate fitness route, because I didn't want to take that teacher test. And I'm glad I was talked into taking that, because I enjoyed my time teaching, and again, just being around the kids like that. And it was a lot of fun. Obviously, I really enjoy what I'm doing now, but sometimes it's fun to act like a second grader and fit right in. So
yeah. What is the Jeremy Feller, the not fussy alumni booster of Minot State, think of the this year's basketball team coming up?
Oh yeah, it's going to be a fun year. We got a lot of local kids. That's kind of one of the biggest complaints I hear from people is, how come we don't have more local kids, North Dakota kids? And I would always say, you show me the ones we're missing out on, and I'll back you. But a lot of our North Dakota basketball players go play football or go do this, or there's not a whole lot of them that I feel like we've missed out on. Occasionally you'll get some that go to a Mary or somewhere else, but it wasn't for lack of effort sometimes. So I'd always back our coaches by saying, that we're trying. It's just, they choose other sports. Sometimes it's volleyball if it's a girl, or but I'm kind of excited to see. I think we're gonna have 4 or 5 minor kids on the team this year. You got a kid from Burlington, Westope. We got a Minnesota kid that's going to be 7 feet tall, stretching the tape measure. So it's nice to. I always joke with Merkin that I going to get him a scholarship set up. The Jeremy and Jade Feller scholarship is going to be for a 7-foot athlete or greater, and I guess he delivered. So I got to hold up my word now and get my scholarship up over the limit now, I guess. So I got to come through for him. But no, it's been fun to go to games again. Merkin is a guy that we've really grown to like. Used to go to church with him for a while there, and just got to know him well. And when I was coaching, he did great community things. He'd bring our team to a practice to watch and interact a little bit, and would invite, and we'd talk and go watch his practice. steal different things from him. And we actually have a shooting drill that we just named the Merkin drill because he showed it to us. And so, yeah, I think a lot of good things are going to come this year. Record-wise, I don't know how they'll end up, but it's a process. I think they're going to continue to grow, and I think we have a bright future coming forward if it's not next year. And the Dome is absolutely spectacular now for people that haven't been there yet. I was excited to show it off at the Minot High graduation this year, but obviously that didn't happen. But, this coming year we'll have 2 state tournaments. If nothing changes, we'll have the B girls and the B boys, and really get to broadcast that thing on a nationwide level or a statewide level there on TV. So it'd be fun to showcase the Dome and show it off.
I like the framework of like the Jeremy Feller scholarship idea. Like anything you can do to help, right? And that's kind of like fundraising is kind of your bit now at Minot State as like the development officer, and not only like that, just also with like your Power of One ventures. Without like basically reading me a Minot State commercial, where do you get like the passion when it comes to like fundraising as a career path?
Well, I think it's just your time there, the relationships that were built from when I was playing there, just reconnecting people with their memories. And, it's probably one of the best part of my job is just getting to visit with people and hearing their stories and reconnecting them with some people that they graduated with. And, sometimes I told somebody the other day that, you don't really sometimes understand your impact you have. For me, sometimes I get the benefit of getting a scholarship endowment set up so somebody can, attend school. And a lot of times you'll hear, $500 isn't, that much money. At the end of the day, I went to Minot State because of $500. So to me, $500, is a great amount of money there that, gets given out.
Free books.
Yeah, free books or just keeps them in the door. But, sometimes you don't understand the impact. And I think of the student emergency fund that we're doing right now is, a lot of people gave, and, that $100 or that $50 that you may have given maybe kept a kid in school, and you're not going to know because they stayed in school. If had you not happened, you would have heard that, so-and-so couldn't come back because, they couldn't afford it or their job got cut because of COVID. So sometimes we don't understand our impact that we have, but, we're knowing that no matter what size, and not to get into a commercial, but no matter what size, it has a great impact. And I always was taught that education is something you can't take away from somebody, and the more educated you are, the better chance you have to succeed. And, if coming from my wife teaches, and now she's a counselor, and just education is important to us. And that's what really makes my job easy and fun every day is just promoting Minot State, reminding myself and my friends, and in this case, alumni, of what was special about, their time there. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jeremy, I don't want to make it into like a huge deep dive about how you went from sport administration to like the fundraising efforts that you have now. But at the same time, I mean, what did it mean for you and your family for Minot State to give you this opportunity, and ultimately a lot of friends and family that cared about you guys to have that next step for your career, wherever it would have been?
Yeah, I started, I don't know how to word this, but I started kind of planning. It'd be fun to be there eventually. I guess in my plan, it was going to be, 15, 17 years down the road when my youngest daughter, Finley, would have graduated, high school, that it'd be nice to move on to a college setting. And, so we kind of looked back, and I remember telling my wife, we should probably be Beaver boosters because, what those guys did to me was special. So I'm going to start giving back now, and, might help me get hired later. And so, it's just, I don't know. It's been special to be back, I guess. And, the timing didn't always seem right. I kind of thought I was going to be the next Doug Wagner, per se, and be at one school for what felt like forever. No pun intended, Doug. But, I was hoping to just kind of be it's Derek Jeter's the guy that I loved watching play. I'm a Yankees fan, and, just to be able to be at one spot for that long is, especially in professional athletics. So I just kind of thought that was going to be me. And I remember reaching out to Rick, who's my boss now, of course, but was the athletic director when I played there. And it was, I believe it was 2017, and I was just Chad McNally had just left, and there was a job opened up in Beaver Boosters, and I always thought athletics was going to be where I was going to be at Minot State. And I remember reaching out to him and just kind of asking, like, hey, like, if I apply for this job, like, you think they'd let me coach for another year or two? I got this junior class that I just don't want to be done with, and it was kind of hard to make that decision. And luckily, I didn't have to make that decision because they hired Brock internally there, and didn't really have to. But I was really stirring around, like, man, am I going to get an opportunity again? Or kind of like Brody said there, it's you don't know when the next one's going to come. So sometimes you just have to jump on it. And I was kind of deciding. Luckily, again, I didn't have to make that decision, but I had great advice from a coach at one point that said, there's always going to be that next kid or that next group of kids. So walking away is never an easy decision. For me, I guess it was because it was given to me, I guess, at the time. And when I went to Minot State, I didn't think I was going to be able to coach again, and kind of thought that was it for me. And it was kind of hard to be done. And but at the same point, I believed in the Minot State mission and what they did. And I ultimately didn't go apply for a PE and coaching job, and I kind of went back home per se. So.
Jeremy's kind of referring a little bit to with Brody Bosch not knowing like the chance to coach at Bishop Ryan or whatever, even though he was like in the private school wheel or whatever. How has your role at Minot State expanded since you started, considering you had to leave the Bishop Ryan program recently?
Yeah, so when I started at Minot State, obviously they want community involvement, and they're all about giving back and being flexible. And Rick mentioned if you want to coach your kids' t-ball team and you need to leave during the day, it's about being involved. But at the same point, it's probably not being a head coach to where if we have a Minot State event and you have a game, it's kind of a conflict there, and kind of was a blessing in the first year. And honestly, I just thought it was a one-year thing. Brock had to kind of walked away late into the year. They were kind of looking for somebody, I guess, and they reached out to me. And, I just kind of joked that I have to talk to my two bosses. And, long story short, it kind of worked out. And I kind of thought it was a one-year thing, and very thankful to get 3. But, when I first started my job, it necessarily hasn't changed a whole lot. It's just I'm kind of more fully into it now. It takes time to develop, what I needed to do and who I had to go see and kind of a lot of those things. And this year going forward, before COVID hit, my travel schedule was supposed to increase, to being gone about 10 times a year for a week at a time. And as you can imagine, trying to coach and being gone is hard. This year, the first 2 years was pretty smooth sailing, other than the fact we went to Arizona for our Arizona events in between districts and regionals. So district championship ended Monday nights. We got on a plane 1 year Tuesday, 1 year was Wednesday, and I didn't come back till Sunday, and we played the regional game Monday. Well, those first 2 years, a little easier too, because we were, state ranked and a little higher up there, and you played a team that you had beaten before. But this last year was a little more challenging. We had a conference in Kansas City. I flew back the same day we played South Prairie, got off the plane, at 1 o'clock and went and played. And then we had, another, we added a Florida event to where I was gone for 3-4 days during the season again. And then of course, Arizona again, where it was in between districts and regionals. And, so I was gone 3 or 4 times this year. And had I been able to do it again, it probably would have been 5 or 6 times being gone. And that's not fair to my family. It's not fair to the kids I'm coaching. And, this year too, I found, even just with those couple extra trips that, it was a pull and tug of me staying up too late trying to watch film, or me missing my kids thing, or it just didn't ever seem like a happy medium of where somebody was always having to sacrifice, and a lot of times it was my kids, and sometimes it was my job, and it was too much. And so I guess long story short is my job is just kind of in full swing now. It takes a while to get going in these roles, and now I'm going to hit the ground running this year. And if we when we can start traveling again, I guess it's going to get pretty busy. And so I'm already starting to miss it a little bit. And I texted Rock when I heard the news about that, and I just congratulated him and told him it's welcome back. And he goes, yeah, I thought going to games is going to help. Like the void that you would have had, and he said it just made it worse. And so I was just like, oh, great, I got that to look forward to, I guess. It's not going to help, but obviously my nephews are going to be playing still, so it's going to be a little different to go watch family, and then of course my daughter will be a fifth grader, as we mentioned, and to have her first high school or junior high season or whatever, elementary season, and then both my daughters are playing travel basketball, and so it's definitely going to be busy, and definitely not a lack of basketball. It'll just be different. I won't have to plan as much or scout the opponent as much, and kind of just get to enjoy being a dad, I guess, and be around more.
Do you ever see yourself coaching in high school again?
I definitely want to rule it out. Part of me thinks it'd be fun to jump back in at some point down the road, and maybe my kids are old enough. At what level, I don't know. Maybe a volunteer assistant or a head coach. I don't know if the timing ever worked out. To definitely entertain the idea. It'd be fun. I've visited with a few people and that have coached their kids, because I kind of joke and say a lot of times the coaches are harder on their own kids, or sometimes your coach when you're at home too and not dad, and it's important to me that I draw that line. And I told my wife, if I'm ever that parent in the stands screaming at the refs, and I know I do it at college games once in a while, but I let that happen.
Yeah.
I said, if I'm ever yelling at my kid about something, just remind me to be her dad, and it's okay for her to fail, and it's okay for them to make mistakes, and it's okay to, if one of my kids doesn't want to play basketball, that's okay. My middle daughter just wanted to play music for a while, piano, and I know nothing about that, and that's okay. It's not trying to live my sports experiences through them. It's letting them be them, and they have both chose basketball at this point. But if that doesn't work out, it's about what they want to do. So
I want to put a wrap quick on just like the MSU portion. And you do understand, Jeremy, that you've probably seen a couple of these episodes where it's an audio-only podcast, and just because you're wearing your Minot State I Give shirt, that nobody's going to be just seeing that billboard the entire time. Not that you're a freaking big dude when I say billboard, but I mean, hello. Just to wrap that up. What's that?
I'm always advertising.
There we go. So to wrap it up, when you guys go all over the place, you in the KC, Vegas, Florida, when you do get to Arizona, a little bit of golf is involved. Who's got the best golf game? And please just don't say like the number one donor that goes there.
No, so first of all, I never golfed in my life, and it's funny because when I was in college, a couple of my teammates would always tease me about when we go to the mall or something that I'd be running for mayor, because I would always talk to everybody, and sometimes they're like giving me that, it's time to go look, and they always joked with me, all the business happens on the golf course, and they were both high school golfers and trying to talk me into golf, and well, anyways, I never did it until I started this job about 3 years ago, so I'm not very good at golf, and sometimes I'm embarrassed to go because I'll swing and miss, and I try being almighty and swing and hit as hard as you can, and they tell you just to let the club do the work. But not to get off topic. But anyways, I'm not very good. So I always feel bad for who I golf with, and I'd have to say this year I've golfed with him twice now. Probably the best person I've golfed with is Daryl Somerville. I don't know if you know him, but he used to be a longtime Minot resident. I think he's full time now in Arizona, but. He actually, I tell everyone I golf with, I'm like, hey, I'm very coachable, so if you have any tips, I know some people are irritated, but by all means. and by the time I left Arizona, I felt pretty good about my golf game, and now it's of course been how many months since, but I was able to get out twice to the Varden already, and I have been hitting a little better, so I have to give him props there. That I'd have to say Daryl. So
you got to be coachable no matter what. And just the worst thing that could maybe happen is like, geez, they just work you around 18 holes, and then they're like, "What? We're giving money to this guy after this display?"
Yeah, so far my golf game has been a lot of scrambles, so it's always nice when I at least sink a putt, or help out a little
perfect.
bit. But it makes up for those, 47 other bad hits that I had or whatever.
That's my story. We should be a bottom half of a scramble team sometime. That'd be sweet.
I always tell people my handicap is what makes you want me to be on your team. So
yeah, I'm at like 50 right now. So if we're playing 18,
looking, I do need a couple partners for a couple of scrambles coming up. So if you need a great handicap, I'm in the 30 range. So give me a call. No.
Bang. All right. So real quick, I just wanted to go back to a guy that obviously you would be really close with. He supported everything Minot and Surrey around here. Was Todd Magnuson. Unfortunately, recently passed away, and he was your coach in the high points of your Surrey lifetime. Playing basketball out there for the Mustangs. I mean, what did you kind of learn from him, both when he was your coach and obviously, staying in touch when it comes to coaching? And obviously, he probably gave you a lot of good on the court and off the court lessons.
Yeah, coaches. Again, for me. Was fortunate to have a lot of great ones, and not only that, but I remember in math class he was a great teacher too. I remember taking a few math classes, and math was actually kind of one of my favorite subjects for the longest time until English got involved in their geometry with all those proofs. But
yeah,
Todd was my math teacher, and on top of basketball, and I just had a lot of good memories, and never second guessed, I guess any coach I had, is kind of the era I grew up in and the way I was raised, I guess, is that you just, respect your elders like that, and you do as you're told. And, we had some great years out there in Surrey, whether, they ended in success or disappointment. And, obviously my senior year, after going to state and finishing fourth, we were highly ranked my senior year and lost first round of regionals. So whether it was success or defeat, the memories were there, the great times, just the respect that he showed to us as kids, and and as I started coaching, I'd get a random text message here and there, just encouraging, and sometimes he didn't know, but sometimes you had a bad day or you lost a game that whatever, and it's just that encouragement, and it's funny that. The state championship game in 16 there, we had a dunk by John Wright late in the game, and it was actually a play that Todd reminded me we ran in high school. And he drew it up on a little beverage napkin for me, while we were both waiting to go on the talk show there. And he would always say, "Billy, you remember this play we did for you in Petros?" Or it was just kind of a special memory, and for it to end up like that. And actually, it was kind of our play we ran a lot this year, where we put Brady and Connor Thompson, both dads are Surrey people too. They're at the high post, and it was the same play that I was referring to of John Duncan. So again, you take a lot from whether it's your high school coach, your college coach, or people that influenced you like that, and I think that kind of molds who you are as a coach. If it was a great experience, if it was a negative one, obviously you mold yourself around the changes, but in my case, they were positive ones. And again, as you look back on what I did and what I've done, and a lot of it's from those guys, and it was kind of hard to take, obviously, and I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't seem real still that it's happened, and I don't know. It's still hard to think about, I guess. But
yeah, I get it. I mean, it was a story for us, man. Just given the impact that he had on the sporting community. Minot, Surrey, obviously some other ones with like the road teams and stuff. And I mean, like, bless his family too. I mean, I was talking with them like day of when unfortunately they had to have the drive-through, like wake procession type thing just because of COVID-19. So wishing them just all the best. And just a couple of points that I thought up when you were remembering those times was first when he's drawing you up the beverage napkin play when you're waiting to go on. Is that a plug for Scott Cattell on sports at Wings and Rings, or what's that?
Well, I didn't say any of his names, so it's funny that if you're at my house ever, you'll see a random play drawn on the weirdest sheet of paper or whatever is around me, but I think it'll just always be in my head forever that, that time we just stood there and we had nothing to draw on, and I'm visual, and I always tell people, my brother too will run play ideas at me, and I'm like, hey, you have to draw it for me because I don't see where that finger's going.
Yeah. You're drawing it up in the dirt.
Yeah. It's just ironic that he drew it up on a beverage napkin, I guess. That I don't know. Like I said, it'll always stick with me, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And just talking about the writing moments, it's always nice to catch up with when I see John's dad around town a little bit. When one of my earlier moments of big shots was when he drained the district championship winner from half court against Bishop Ryan. And it's even been years later. I've seen him around Hustfest, or if we're meeting him for any kind of story fair plan and whatnot. He's like, hey, man, seeing that shot, it gets me through a tough day. Thanks, Mr. Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah. There's a lot of special moments, and, that one's on my wall downstairs. I don't know how big it is. It's a nice-sized picture, and it's funny to see. And, that first year I had the Ryan kids over. Right away we had them over, and I switched jobs just to kind of get to know them. And, I said, sorry you have to look at that, because, a couple of them were in the picture bent over, with their hands on their knees, couldn't believe what just happened, and so they're on the wrong side of it. And
they're like, take this picture down? Yeah,
to be fair, though, a few of them showed up in region championship shirts from beating me in that year, the next year. So to be fair, we each had a plug theirs, I reminded them of the picture. They reminded me of the shirt, and so.
Yeah, and you talked about just with your family. I mean, the girls don't have to play basketball. Obviously, you guys are up for anything. You're super invested in whatever they want to do. But I mean, now that they've decided to play basketball, I mean, you've coached a lot of kids before. But what's it like? Just the joy of watching your girls, Piper and Harper, playing. And do you think much of their love for the game has to come from watching you? I mean, Piper's in the cheerleading outfit every playoff run,
Yeah, it's of course my wife volunteered me to help coach Piper's team, and at first I was kind of I got enough going on, and but it was pretty special to kind of be there to help and be a part of it, and with Harper's team, she just did one tournament this year. She's just a second grader, but again, it was fun to see that passion, and I'd say that probably the biggest drive for them might not be myself, might not even be my wife. My wife played college basketball too, and it's those kids that have come over, and they've gotten attached to, and I'll never forget. We had a team meal, and we used to have them at my mother-in-law's once in a while because our house wasn't big enough, and I still remember one of them taking my daughter and reading a book, and I'm like, to my wife, I couldn't picture myself as a junior or a sophomore. I don't remember the age of the guy now, but I said I couldn't even picture myself reading a book to it. I mean, I was, good with kids, but just that level was just, so I think just their experiences with these boys and, what they feel. And I know when we finished the 2016 season, my daughter cried because her favorite player is graduating, and it's kind of it's obviously pretty special to a little kid like that when that happens, and little to be known that if you look at her travel basketball number, it's the same number as that kid from high school. So it's memories of them being invested in
who is what
kids and the parents treat our family and our kids, and it's whether it was Ari Demers or Bishop Ryan, it's we've been treated well, and more importantly, my family and my kids have been treated so well that and that's probably where their love comes from. But again, Piper has tried about everything. We got her into soccer and gymnastics, and she swims a swim club, and somehow she's good at swimming. I don't know where that comes from because I can hardly doggy paddle, and my wife probably can swim, but she probably owns a state record already, and one of her meets. So I mean, I don't know where that comes from, but good for her. But
Sweet. What was her favorite player that she wears the number of?
Josh Van Lith was her favorite player. At 16, she'd bring him a Valentine's gift on Valentine's Day, and she liked all the kids, of course, but he was her favorite. She once she got a girlfriend here, it was kind of hard on her. Now he's getting married here this year. We're hoping that we can get down there in July. Hopefully, Minnesota is
tough to attend the wedding.
COVID business is away, but we're hoping to make it down. And, again, there's been so many of them that's just. It's been great,
Mm-hmm. Now, you said your wife volunteered you a little bit, so I'm going to give you a chance to get back into things. How much credit has Jade earned already as you've coached and kind of been around the teams, taking care of the kids with you at the games, cooking the meals? She's like the team photographer, all that good stuff.
Yeah, she's had a lot of hats. Early on it was a lot of, maybe a text message while she's at work and says, "Hey, can the team come out tonight?" Yeah, but a little better planning would be better. And how many kids? I'm like, I don't know. I'll let you know soon. And,
great.
An hour before we come out, how many I'm cooking for yet? Nope. I'm in the middle of practice. So yeah, a lot of late planning on my part. And sometimes if we're just had a bad week of practice or a bad day of practice, it's late. Hey, will you make them dessert at least, or will you do this? Or so she's been pretty good at flying, by the seat of her pants for that. And, going forward, as you mentioned too, started taking pictures up the games, doing all those kind of things. And last year, or 2 years ago, I guess, we tried saving about 4 newspapers every single day, which is not easy to do. And she made scrapbooks for the kids, and I don't just mean cutting the articles out and putting them on a piece of paper. It's the fancy paper, putting the pictures on there and little sayings, and hours and hours on each page. And I don't know, I kind of tease her that I don't know why I didn't get one, but anyway, she's done that for a couple of the different teams of these boys, and and like I mentioned before, and I'm sure I think you said it too, that every coach has a great wife around. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be doing it, or wouldn't be able to do it, because especially when you have 3 kids at home as young as ours, and sometimes it takes a village to raise them, and sometimes at games and practice, people step up, and sometimes it's especially this year. Where's Finley at? Because she gets pretty comfortable being at a gym when you're there for practice and everything, and sometimes they'll be shooting around and playing, and when the kids will play one-on-one with them, and just, I don't know, I'm getting off in the wrong area, but just the parents and the kids have meant a lot to us, and hopefully that doesn't change just because they're not coaching. I hope that we'll be at games, and I'm sure my wife will be taking pictures. And I joked with a couple of people already that I don't want to joke too loud, so I get stuck doing it too much. But I said, you could probably see me doing shot clock or a clock or some of those jobs that nobody ever wants to do. We have the iron people that do them at every game, and if they happen to be gone for some reason, it's hard to find people, so it's one of those things where I'm sure I'll be involved somewhat, but just to what level, I don't know,
Oh, I'm just thinking, imagine when they get to high school, maybe that's your big-time varsity coaching return.
Yeah, you never know. 5th grade this year, so we got a few years to, get through first, but I'll just enjoy that travel season this year, and I think I'm going to kind of get a little bit more involved with both girls' teams, and not to the extent of being a head coach, but just to be around them and to help out when I can, and it'll be fun to watch them grow and be around it, and more importantly, not miss things. So
sounds great, man. I mean, enjoy it, because time just flies. Jeremy Feller, thanks much.
Thank you.